Hi everyone, RFG here with a review for Neon Blood, a sci-fi investigative adventure game with a turn-based battle system developed by ChaoticBrain Studios. Published by Meridiem Games and AstroLabe Games, available on PC, PS4, 5, Switch, Xbox One, and Series X and S. Neon Blood's opening sets up the underlying plot of questionable experiments, illusions of loyalty, and vague ideals of the company. Shortly after this cutscene, you're introduced to the protagonist, Axel McCoin, who is on his way up in an elevator of the Bright Falls Hotel for a murder investigation. It doesn't take long before you're made aware that Axel has some issues. However, you're quickly given control to move around to interact with the characters and stage. Interactable characters will have a speech bubble appear near their head, but before you can really explore, speaking with Chief Joe Conway gives you some insight on Axel and lets you begin the investigation. While speech bubbles for interactable characters are noticeable even in crowded areas, environmental interactions aren't as obvious. You'll usually have to get near an object in order for a prompt to appear. The bulk of investigations would depend on you interacting with various characters and the environment to progress through Neon Blood. You don't always have to speak to characters in a specific order, but some prompts aren't available until certain triggers are met. This isn't straightforward in all situations. After a certain point, you'll gain the ability to scan the area around you. Using your scan allows you to highlight objects to interact with them. This also allows you to uncover footprints to track them, ultimately to your next goal. Sometimes you might be given different paths to follow. Before you can gain your ability to scan the environment, you'll be given your first fight. Neon Blood uses a fairly straightforward turn-based battle system. Battles depend on one side to lose all hit points. Axel's health is shown on the top right of the screen, while enemy hit points are shown above their sprite. You're given 4 options in battle. Attack to deal direct damage based on your die and attack value shown underneath your health. Items let you select items to use which have different effects and certain restrictions to not be abusable. Skills let you choose between specified abilities like double the damage of an attack roll, and other skills you'll gain throughout Axel's journey. Finally, you can defend to block any damage for a turn. Most battles you'll come across will be one-on-one. Occasionally you'll get 2-on-1 battles, but the dynamic doesn't really change. And all battles start you at full health. Your goal is to knock enemies' health down to 0, where you'll move on to your next objective. I don't think any battles can be avoided, so it's important to note that Neon Blood is a very linear experience. It's not entirely on rails, but most of the game is approached on almost a step-by-step basis. Your room for exploration is generally pretty narrow, but does allow you to speak to some extra characters to add to the setting, read some newspaper clips for lore, and speaking to cats because why not? You do occasionally get some extra bits to add to the interactivity, like short time button sequences while investigating, optional dialogue choices to progress, or some quick time events after a battle. But most of these don't really have any consequences from failing that I could find. I also wasn't sure what would happen after losing a fight or QTE sequence, since it wasn't clear when the game autosaves and there's no manual save option. So I just made sure I never lost or failed either one. That doesn't mean that all battles are complete cakewalks, but it doesn't mean that they aren't very simple either. You do gain skills like I mentioned earlier, but the skills help trivialize the battles even more, as there's no real trade-off for using them, and there really aren't enough battles to experiment with them. I also couldn't find a character menu to even review Axel's battle skills. There's also no real menu in general. You can pause the game to see your objective, but your only menu options are to continue or exit to the title screen. Neon Blood is incredibly short. You could beat the game in a few hours, which wouldn't be a huge problem if there was any incentive to replay the game, but it's lacking there also. That's not to say Neon Blood doesn't have any redeeming qualities. The story can be fairly entertaining, and many of the limited amount of characters you come across have their unique personality traits. The murder investigation does eventually grow into a larger plot about dystopian power dynamics, which does get established early on in the story and brings along the cyberpunk narrative. But even the twists and turns that ties directly to the characters isn't handled in a way that brings a lot of nuance to the narrative. I think the story is serviceable, but doesn't leave much of a lasting impression. There are some things that did leave me impressed though. I love the visual style of the game. These aren't the most detailed sprites or the most fine-tuned 3D backgrounds, yet they blend together beautifully. The use of neon colors on some of the characters and in the backgrounds couples together with the fluid animation of the sprites. It's not perfect, but I genuinely love the look. And there are also some quality hand-drawn style animated cutscenes. Music was great overall. It has some intentionally goofy tracks here and there that lightens the mood, but just about each section of the game has a fitting tune. But even though the visual and musical style really appealed to me, I feel the game is held back from several design decisions. There's no real depth to the investigation and adventure portions of the game. You might get a chance to scan here and there and get into a fight, but they're relatively simple, and usually don't last that long before you're basically sent to track footprints. Battles are just as lacking even when new skills are gained, or if more than one enemy is participating. I never found a reason to use an item or the defend option because they just seemed like a waste of a turn. The remarkably short length and lack of replay value do even more of a job of holding Neon Blood back. Even if you're into the cyberpunk story setting, it's just not handled well enough to offset the other negative qualities I think Neon Blood suffers from. Normally, I'd say check the respective store page if you're interested, but I'd only recommend that after a significant price reduction, and right now I don't think it's worth checking out. But that's it for me. Let me know what you think below. Thanks. Bye.